The 2024 SunBet ZX10 Masters Cup is proudly brought to you by SunBet, Red Square, Bridgestone the tyre of choice, and Kawasaki South Africa. Welcome back to Killarney for round 9, race 1 of the 2024 SunBet ZX10 Masters Cup, which once again forms part of the Extreme Festival. Tensions were high as round 9 marked the penultimate round of the 2024 SunBet ZX10 Masters Cup season. With lots of thrills, lots of spills over this season, who was going to end off on a high? Who was going to take victory here at round 9? Only time would tell. Trevor Westman definitely looking as one of the favourites. He would be starting from pole position. Could he convert pole position to a win or two in front of his home crowd here in Cape Town? The wind picked up as the riders did their final preparation on their bikes. That final bit of fuel, that final bit of setup as they got ready to head out for race 1 of round 9 here at Killarney International Raceway in Cape Town. As the riders made their way out of pit lane, heading out for their starting lap and warm-up lap before the start of race 1. It was Trevor Westman then on pole, setting a brilliant lap time, a 1:13.465, ahead of AJ Venter in second, David Enticott in third, Daniel Provocati in fourth, Hein McMahon in fifth, Graham from Bidar, first of your Grandmasters riders in sixth, David Feringa in seventh, James Barson in eighth, Peter de Vos, first of your veteran riders in ninth, ahead of Dieter Huisman, Lubas, Gerard Frey, Ian Harwood, Perron Peresaman, and Sifiso Temba, rounding out the top 15 with Lionel Black in 16th and Daryl Barrington on the number 30, rounding out the 17-rider field in 17th place. The time for talk was over. It was now time to do and time to race. Who would take that all-important hole shot as the riders made their way to the grid to line up for round 9, race 1 here at Killarney? The lights went off and it was a fantastic start from AJ Venter on the number 39 bike ahead of Trevor Westman. Damien Purificati looking at going on the inside, as too was a number 4 there of Hein McMahon, but it was AJ Venter ahead of Trevor Westman, Damien Purificati, David Enticott on the number 78 with a great start, Graham from Idar, Hein McMahon, James Barson, David Feringa, Peter de Vos, and then the number 70 bike of Dieter Huisman, and he was ahead of Ian Harwood. Great also to see the number 21 of Gerard Frey back in action as we take a ride on board the rear view with AJ Venter, looking back at Trevor Westman and Damien Purificati, and you can see there Trevor Westman cutting the nose off of Damien, heading into turn 1. A little bit of a wheelie which cost time for Trevor Westman off the start, and that is a problem down here at the coast. Remember these bikes, these already 200 horsepower Kawasaki fire-breathing machines have an extra around about 10% of horsepower, and a move for the lead. That was Trevor Westman on the inside, and you can see how dirty the track is as well. So Trevor Westman taking the lead, a great move ahead of AJ Venter. So the number 60 man looking at pulling a gap, looking at checking out early here in race 1. But that wouldn't be easy as he had a train of riders behind him. AJ Venter, Damien Purificati, David Enticott also looking for a move on the inside, heading off the back straight. And he was ahead of the defending champion, who unfortunately has lost his crown in 2024 to Clinton Seller, the new man on top in 2024, unfortunately not making it down here for round 9. So victory would be up for grabs. Who would take victory? Would it be Trevor Westman? Would it be AJ Venter? Or could the likes of Damien Purificati and David Enticott throw their names in the hat? David Feringa, a great launch. You can see just how bumpy this Killarney International Grand Prix track is here as you take a ride on board there with David Feringa, who's looking for a move on the inside of James Barson on the Steel Monkey back number 15 bike. At the front, the field was starting to spread out. The top 4 pulling a slight gap on 5th place man Graham from Idar, who was trying his utmost to keep Hein McMahon behind him, and the number 15 of James Barson with David Feringa just behind them, looking to pick up any pieces that might fall his way. So this was now a two-way battle. So you had a group of 4 at the front, And then another group of 4 battling for 5th place, all the way back down to David Feringa as well. And they were looking at putting a gap. You can see Peter de Vos just behind them as well on the number 17. First of your veteran riders, he was trying to close that gap and go with that group of 4 riders ahead of him. A nice move at the end of the back straight behind McMahon on the number 4, who had now made his way past Graham from Midor on the number 1. While out front it was still Trevor Westman, followed by AJ Fenter in second, Damien Provocati in third, and he was now getting hounded by the number 78 of David Enticott. While David Feringa was trying his utmost to get past James Barson, no friendly wagers this time out, as there was between the two friends at Killarney. Damien Provocati going ultra defensive into turn 2, trying to keep that 3rd place spot ahead of David Enticott, while this 4-way battle was still raging on. And Peter de Vos was doing his utmost to try and close that gap on the riders ahead of him, while the number 60 of Trevor Westman had his hands full with AJ Fenter behind him. The number 39 buck, the vastly experienced AJ Fenter, could he deny Trevor Westman a victory at home? Trevor Westman at this point was putting out a little bit of a gap on AJ Fenter, who was battling to keep the front wheel down on that Truvine Volts Market ZX10R as the riders made their way down the back straight. Once again, Damien Provocati going ultra defensive ahead of the 78 of David Enticott. These riders have now pulled a little bit of a gap on the battle behind them, while the 821 of Damien Provocati on his new Gen 6 ZX10, he was obviously gaining that vital racing setup, that vital racing experience as he looks to get to grips with that new bike. Heading into turn 1, Damien Provocati still ahead of the 78, and then right behind him the number 4 man of Han McMahon. He was now leading that group behind and trying to close the gap down between the 2 riders ahead of him. Heading into the bumpy turn 2, you can see the bumps there on the inside. It was still Damien Provocati ahead of David Enticott, while further back, veteran rider Lionel Black was having a great outing on board his yellow ZX10R here at Killarney. Up front, Damien Provocati and David Enticott were still stuck together like slot on a rug, nothing to separate them at all, while Ian Harwood on the 24 was having a great outing on the TRP bike and looking stylish in his brand new LS2 helmet. As the riders made their way down the back straight, it was still Han McMahon leading that 4-way rider group ahead of the number 1 of Graham from Medina. A move on the inside there from David Feringa, the juggernaut, on the 117. He is now through on the man behind him now, who is at the back of that group, and that is, of course, James Barson. So a great ride by these 4 riders, leaving nothing out on the track, putting absolutely everything into it. A lonely ride behind them was the number 17 of Peter de Vos, who never had anything to be able to catch this group ahead of him. Another lap of asking, and it was still the 2 riders out front, Trevor Westman ahead of AJ Fenter, 3rd place, and it was still a battle as a move on the inside. David Feringa making a move back on the inside of James Barson, and those 2 were tussling it out hard. Further down the field though, a great battle here, and that was Lubas on the inside of Ian Harwood with Perron Peresaman just behind them. And this was a great battle, and it was led by Gerard Frey on the 21. So very, very good to see Gerard Frey back in action. Sifiso Temba just behind Perron as well on the number 63, having a great outing on his brand new ZX10R as he gets to grips with that motorbike. So Gerard Frey ahead of Lubas, Ian Harwood, Perron, Sifiso Temba, and Lionel Black at the back of that group. And as we said before, the number 63, the vastly experienced Sifiso Temba, he'd be looking at making his way to the front of that group and getting the best overall possible results come the end of the race. Peresaman doing his utmost to get past Ian Harwood. Ian doesn't make it easy. He brakes late and he gets on the gas super hard and aggressive. So Perron would have his work cut out for him. While back at the front, Trevor Westman was still ahead of AJ Fenter, but disaster struck and he lost the front a little bit wide, and a nasty accident there for the number 60 who planted into his ZX10R machine. Looks like he's quite hurt there. The marshals doing a great job of getting to him as quickly as possible. Let's take a ride on board with AJ Fenton. You can see a little bit wide. The track is a little bit dirty there, and he lost the front. And in a separate incident on the same lap, Ian Harwood, after a great performance so far in race 1, a nasty crash from Ian, who's not getting up, and that brought out the red flag in what was an exciting and enthralling first part of the race. So 2 nasty incidents within the space of a lap. And let's just hope the riders are all right. The marshals doing a great job of attending to the injured riders, as were the medics, and also doing a great job of clearing their crashed machines. You can see quite a lot of damage there to Trevor Westman's machine, as they, that's not great news. So they loaded Trevor Westman onto the stretcher, putting him into the back of an ambulance. So not good news there, as we get ready for the restart of race 1. Riding on board with AJ Fenter, who got a fantastic start, a great initial launch, keeping that front wheel down, getting the momentum and heading into turn 1, blocking off the inside line, and he keeps all the riders behind him. So unfortunately, Trevor Westman and Ian Harwood obviously not able to make the restart of race 1. But it was still AJ Fenter out front after a great start, heading into turn 2. And here David Enticott behind him, the number 78 bike, who was looking at challenging AJ Fenter up front. Having a much better start to the second part of race 1 was David. So it was AJ Fenter out front ahead of the 78 of David Enticott. In third place, the number 1 of Graham from Idar, first of your Grand Masters riders. Behind him was also a Grandmaster, David Feringa, with a great start, and James Barson, while behind them, a bit of a poor start there for the number 4 of Han McMahon. He was ahead of Dieter Huisman and Peter de Vos, and also a great start this time around from Lubas, who was ahead of Gerard Frey and Lionel Black. And further behind Black, a gap had already formed, and that was Sifiso Temba ahead of the number 30 bike of Daryl Barrington. So those 2 riders had a lot of work to do if they were to get up to the group of riders ahead of them. The start of another lap, it was still AJ Fenter getting hounded by David Enticott. David Feringa was now up into a great third place, ahead of Graham from Idar, James Barson, and Han McMahon, doing everything he could to close that gap. Behind McMahon on the number 4, it was still the number 17 of Peter de Vos, first of your veteran riders, and he was having to keep a hard-charging Dieter Huisman behind him. While Han McMahon was trying to keep the front wheel down, AJ Fenter out front was trying to keep the hard-charging David Enticott behind him. A great start to the second part of race 1 for David Enticott. The completion of yet another lap, and it was still AJ Fenter out front, getting the most out of his Bridgestone tyres as he looked to put down those fast laps to keep David Enticott behind him. While disaster struck for Perron Pereseman, who was forced to retire from race 1 with what looked like a mechanical issue. Out front, no such issues. However, David Feringa, the number 117, was missing from this podium battle, and unfortunately a crash for the Juggernaut heading into turn 2. So hopefully he would bounce back and contest the podium battles come race 2. No such issues for the front riders though. A 3-way battle had now commenced for the final podium position. Gerard Frey on the number 21 was loving life, being back on the ZX10 and being back a part of the SunBet ZX10 Masters Cup family. AJ Fenter, David Enticott had now put quite a sizable lead over this battle for third. The battle for third was heating up as Han McMahon, now looking on the inside of Graham from Idar, heading into turn 1, a great move by the number 4 man. So Graham from Idar now demoted to 4th place. James Barson still having a great ride in 5th behind Graham from Idar, and that was actually a battle now that was raging on for top honours in the Grand Masters category. Of course, both Graham from Idar and James Barson are both Class B riders and classified as Grand Masters. At this stage of the race, the Kawasaki ZX10R bikes were screaming, and so were the Bridgestone tyres, as the riders were giving it absolutely everything around this bumpy Killarney International Raceway. David Enticott was now challenging AJ Fenter up front, making his intentions known, while Han McMahon was putting a little bit of a gap now on Graham from Idar and James Barson behind him. Further down the field, there was also another three-way battle which was getting quite interesting, and that was between Lubas and, of course, Gerard Frey and Dieter Huisman, who had a poor start to the restart, let's say, but making up for lost ground, definitely. And they were trying to chase down the number 17 of Peter de Vos, who was leading out the veterans category. Lubas still on the number 12 spare bike after that nasty crash at Killarney, was unable to get his number 1 ZX10 ready. So on the spare bike, making it count, running wide, using all the track there is Lubas as he defends his position from the hard-charging Gerard Frey and Dieter Huisman behind him. Well, up front, still not an inch to be given between AJ Venter and David Enticott, trying to keep those front wheels down as we head back to Lubas, Gerard Frey, and of course Dieter Huisman. That battle raged on to the line. So it was Lubas still trying to hold off the hard-charging Gerard Frey and Dieter Huisman behind him. And he's a very hard man to pass, is Lubas. Gets those elbows out, and he's got those long, wide sweeping lines, hangs off that motorcycle, very stylish, and gets on the brakes very late. So a very hard rider to try and get past is Lubas. But Gerard Frey was doing his utmost, running a little bit wide there, heading onto the main straight. He was trying to keep Dieter Huisman behind him as well. At the front, though, it seemed like the final podium place was now in the hands of Han McMahon on the number 4 bike. He had stretched a bit of an advantage now over Graham van Midar, who in turn had stretched a little bit more of an advantage over 5th place man, and that was James Parsons, still having a great ride out in 5th. At the front, though, AJ Venter was having to work hard to keep the number 78 of David Enticott behind him. He was having to dig deep into his tools of experience, both internationally and locally, to keep the number 78 behind him. While further back, Sifiso Temba was having a great but lonely ride. Not quite the battle we saw he was having in the first part of race 1, but a great ride from the number 63 nonetheless. Out front, though, AJ Venter was still ahead of David Enticott. You can see those varying lines heading into turn 1 and out of turn 1 as David Enticott looks at getting the drive, making a move. AJ Venter going ultra defensive as David Enticott takes that wide sweeping line, and they were coming up now to lap Daryl Barrington, who was also having a great outing. So at this stage of the race, no mistakes could be made, and AJ Venter was closing those lines, not giving David Enticott a sniff. But would the back marker come into play? It looks like they both safely made it through on Daryl Barrington. On the last lap, it was a lonely 6th place for Peter de Vos, but nothing lonely about this battle for 7th. Lubas still ahead of Gerard Frey and Dieter Huisman as the leaders made their way down the back straight for the last time of asking. A move on the inside from David Enticott, but the door was closed on him from AJ Venter, the vastly experienced AJ Venter, who gets the drive onto the main straight. And it was in fact AJ Venter who would take victory, a great victory here in race 1 at Killarney for the 2024 SunBet ZX10 Masters Cup round 9, ahead of 78. That is David Enticott, a great 3rd place. Final podium position there from the number 4 of Han McMahon, who managed to hold off the hard-charging Graham van Midar in 4th. 5th place, a bit of a lonely 5th place, but a great 5th place nonetheless from James Parsons on the number 15. And then 6th place is, of course, Peter de Vos, first of the veteran riders. A great performance from the vastly experienced Class C rider. David Enticott can be proud of that. What a performance. He pushed AJ Venter all the way in that restart. So a great performance. Away to the crowd, and he would be looking at coming back stronger for race 2 and looking at taking that all-important overall victory. James Parsons can be very proud of that performance. 2nd in the Grand Masters category and 5th overall. A strong performance from James Parsons, who's only getting quicker and quicker with every passing outing. Talking about quicker, that is a number 61 as well of Lionel Black. A great ride here in race 1 as the riders made their way to Parc Ferme. Let's take a look at the final race 1 classification. Victory for AJ Venter ahead of David Enticott He pushed AJ Venter all the way. Han McMahon, a brilliant third ahead of Graham from Idar, first of the Grandmasters in fourth. James Barson, fifth. Peter de Vos, first of the veterans in sixth. Ahead of Dieter Huisman, who won out that battle for seventh. Ahead of Gerard Frey, Lubas, Lionel Black, Sifiso Temba, Daryl Barrington, David Feringa, unfortunately with that crash, Trevor Westman as well, Damien Pervocati with issues in that restart, Ian Harwood in 16th, and Perron Peresiman rounding out the field in 17th place.
Yes, Dave Feringa, from Thursday until today, you've had a rather interesting week there, from what I understand. Firstly, let's begin with your practice. Before we get to today, how did your practice go up until today?
Oh, look, Thursday was very strong. We got here, we got straight away on the track, and straight away I was at, my race base, March when we were here. So we definitely moved forward and, been putting in some development in the bike and, just getting myself more sort of comfortable to push the limits. So, yeah, Thursday was fairly normal. It's, and then, started qualifying. We were coming on strong and, we practiced the 15-7 and we're looking forward to this morning to put in the last qualifier, with a decent set of rubber. And my team at front wheel went wrong.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, and then obviously race one. What happened race one?
Sure. Look, after the qualifying episode, then my brain was pretty much rattled a little bit. So we started settling at the grid, and I started working my way through, and I got into a nice rhythm, behind Slucky, and then obviously the race got red flagged, and we sat to the grid for a little bit. Obviously the tires got a bit cool and maybe a little bit of inexperience on my half. Third lap as I came into turn 2, I just tucked the front.
The 2024 SunBet ZX10 Masters Cup is proudly brought to you by SunBet, Red Square, Bridgestone, the tyre of choice, and Kawasaki South Africa.